are back. We're back. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 45 of Under the Middle Rope. I'm your host, Jose Tabuada, and yes, we're back. And it's been a couple of weeks off. Good couple of weeks off. I know I kind of that kind of came out of nowhere, so I apologize for that if you're waiting for an episode in the last 2 weeks. But yes, this is going to be a bit of a long intro, so I'm just going to quickly explain what's been going on. But everything's okay. Everything's fine. Sometimes it's just nice to take a step back from what you're doing. But one of the biggest reasons why I took a week off was because I was designing a new website for my personal work. Because I'm trying to get into writing. I'm trying to get into the groove of writing. So down below, joseatabuada.com is where you can check out all my past work, including a written series of me reviewing every single WrestleMania. I did that in 2019 in the lead up to my trip to WrestleMania 35. I had a blast reviewing every single WrestleMania. I know I have 2 WrestleManias that I need to review, 35 and 36. But yes, if you want to catch some of my written work, and I know this is a wrestling podcast, but there will be a lot of baseball hopefully being written on it. So if you want to check that out, if you want to support, go to that website. It goes a long way. And of course, you can catch all Under the Middle Rope episodes from Podbean, which is our podcast host server, and of course here on YouTube for all that. But yes, that's what I've been up to. And then of course, I got some upgraded tech, such as this new webcam, which comes with a built-in light, the Razer Keel. So I don't have a ring light anymore that comes in the way of the camera and makes me look like I'm in a James Bond film, as Nick said a few weeks ago at the Rumble prediction. So it's all in one, new tech. So I'm very happy to have that. And yeah, again, like, it's the end of the day, just weeks off are great. While I was off, and this is what today's episode is on. While I was off, weirdly enough, and I'm going to go into more detail in the discussion, but I had somebody message me, a man. I gotta pull up his name here really quick. A man by the name of Nick Opolweski, and I mispronounced. I know I mispronounced this as well in the discussion, so I apologize, Nick, in advance. He sent me a message on Facebook, and I go into further detail, but he asked us to review a pay-per-view. We got a request, which is amazing. So thank you, Nick. And again, I'm going to go into further detail of that. But yes, we are going back in time, and so that is what we're going to do. We're going to be reviewing a WCW pay-per-view from the mid-90s. So all I can say is, for the first time in 2 weeks, sit back, relax, and enjoy our new segment from the vault, Spring Stampede 1994. Hey everybody, welcome to the discussion. RJ Stacy's back, and now officially properly back for the first time since episode 2, my good old friend David Morisuti. David, welcome back properly, because I know it was an emergency pod last time, and now you're properly back. How does it feel to be back for the first time in nearly a year? Actually, it's going to be a couple weeks, for instance, the year anniversary since you were last on the show.
I'm going to play the good old Matt Damon with Jimmy Kimmel. I was just sitting in my office waiting for an invite and disappointed every single time, being told you didn't make the show.
Well, I guess that's all the time we have for you today. So now it's just RJ. I'm kidding.
I knew you were going to do that.
Cut from the broadcast.
You set me up right there. But anyways, yes, we are back. As I said in the introduction, it's good to be back. I know, I know like I said in the introduction, the break was well needed. Nice to step back because I was busy doing some other things. And again, you all heard it in the introduction, how good the break was. So we're gonna move forward, and we're reviewing today Spring Stampede 1994. 1994, and as I said in the introduction, Nick, the fan who asked us this, and I'll go into full detail now, because I didn't say it properly in the introduction. At the beginning of February, I got a message from the Under the Middle Rope Facebook page. Yes, we are on Facebook, and I got a message asking from Nick Opolweski. I'm sorry, I'm so bad with names as of late, but he asked if I have the WWE Network and if we take requests. Which of course was new territory for us because we technically haven't done requests since we were on Patreon at the beginning of the podcast, but just in general, just non-Patreon, first time ever. I responded to him 15 days later, 2 weeks later, asking for clarification. He said, I want the pay-per-view to review, and he picked Spring Stampede 1994 WCW. When I asked him why, because that's for 3 young guys, David was born in 94, RJ and I in 93 respectively, and And I said, why? And he just said that it was simply because it was the best pay-per-view, WCW pay-per-view of 1994. And we saw it this past Saturday. We all, RJ and I were going to watch it, just us. And then David tagged along and we said, come on by. We guarantee you'll have some fun. And we had a great time, didn't we, fellas? We actually thought it was a solid pay-per-view at the end of it all. We crushed through it all because we originally we said we may take a break and said, forget it. We're just going to power along here. So what we're going to do is we're going to treat this as if we were doing a regular Fallout for our pay-per-view predictions here on the podcast. We're going to go match by match. You're going to get your graphics on the center left of the screen with the results and whatnot. We're going to give our feedback, what we thought on the match or anything that stood out to us. And then we're going to give like a proper review at the end of it all. So gentlemen, are you ready?
Let's go.
Let's do it.
Any thoughts before we get into it? Like what you thought of the pay-per-view? I mean, we went in blindly. We went in 100% blindly because
I was 100%. You asked me like 10 minutes before you guys were even gonna go watch it. I'm like, what? Okay. I'm like, okay, let's go. I got nothing better to do on a Saturday night, apparently.
Yeah, not these days, eh? No, I really liked it. I won't say I really liked it, but it was fun enough. Like, it was better than I was expecting it to be. When Jose asked if we wanted to watch the 1994 Spring Stampede, I was like, okay, well, this is probably gonna be a terrible, terrible pay-per-view.
Well, just the name alone, you're like Spring Stampede. Like, it doesn't really scream epic pay-per-view, really, if you think about it.
But it was pretty good. Like, it had a decent main event. It had some fun matches in between. It had like 5 title matches on it, and I guess it was the best pay-per-view from that year. So I mean, it wasn't bad.
And of course, like, I mean, this is where our age is gonna show because we saw a lot of familiar names on this card that were like, oh, I know him by this name, by that name, because again, that's what we grew up in the early 2000s. So fair warning, Nick, our age will show as time goes on throughout this pay-per-view. But I'm ready to go. We're gonna start off with the opening match. Johnny B. Bad defeating Diamond Dallas Page. And of course, Johnny B. Bad to us in the WWF was Mark Miro, who partnered up with Sable in the late 90s. But Johnny B. Bad defeating DDP. We know DDP. In a very quick opening match. I'm going to start off with RJ on this because you had one of your first comments upon seeing Johnny B. Bad was absolutely hilarious. So let's start with you on that.
Yeah, for one, this guy's got lots of charisma. I love this guy the second he came onto the screen. But it seemed like he was playing some sort of like male just jumped out of like a cake stripper at a bachelor party. Like, he had the confetti cannon. He was like the sexy cowboy, I guess, came out, and he was like fully doing like the I'm here to jump out of a cake and strip naked for a bunch of ladies gimmick. And I can't be the only one of the three of us who saw that.
It wasn't my go-to thought, but as soon as you brought it up, oh, okay, sure, he would maybe be one to hire if necessary. David, let's go with you on your thoughts on the match.
I mean, my first thought when I saw Diamond Dallas Page, I'm like, how did Kevin Nash become Diamond Dallas Page? Like, the not only just what he was wearing, but I knew Diamond Dallas Page was pretty big, but like, that was a massive Diamond Dallas Page. Like I said, looked like Kevin Nash. I'm like, this is so weird to see. Because, I mean, I just remember all my days of watching him, later in WCW and then WWF. That's not the Diamond Dallas Page I remember. So that was quite an interesting. And then, the Diamond Doll. Like, what a name for a partner to come out with. Like, so weird, so interesting.
Of course, that the Diamond Doll is Kimberly Page, who's like part of the women's lineup in WCW. But yeah, no, I mean, like it was a straightforward match. I was kind of rooting for Johnny B. Bad because again, he just looked incredible shape. Like RJ said, a lot of charisma with it. I'm like, you know what? This is a good feel good moment for the crowd to open the show. Get the show off on the right foot. The confetti was a great touch. Going to each corner, pow. Which I feel like we should see more often in wrestling. But yeah, I mean, like, look, the whole setup was great. The cowboy look was hilarious, and this is one thing that we're going to notice with WCW as we start our comparisons with the WWE with their WWE characters. Unfortunately, or fortunately, they showed a lot more of their talent in WCW than in WWF. Like when I saw Mark Miro, I'm like, this is not the Mark Miro that I saw in WWF. maybe not. Again, I was also too young, but there was a lot of like technical work. There was a lot of like great in-ring work with Mark Miro. I'm like, okay, all right, I kind of see where this is going. So I liked it a lot, but very simple opening match. So we're going to move on because again, there's not too much to it. The one point I wanted to make before we go to the next match, which made me laugh, was the WCW Hotline, and I just wondered how, like, first of all, I know it's the 90s, and I know they did a lot of hotlines. What was it? 1-900-999-9909. I don't know. I don't know what it was. Just, and you can talk for 99 cents a minute. You could talk with Sting. I'm like, that may be that may be the best $5 you ever spend on a phone call to quickly talk to Sting. And I mean, I've worked in broadcast. I've done like some volunteer broadcasting work in Toronto where I had to screen phone calls, and of course, as soon as they went on air, you know, you screen them, you get what they want to ask on air or whatnot, and then all of a sudden they completely flip the script and what you don't expect. So it's pretty bold for them to do that, but I laughed. Would any of you guys have called the hotline to talk to Sting for 99 cents a minute? David would, RJ?
No, I definitely wouldn't. No, I said I wouldn't.
You wouldn't? Oh, sorry.
No, because I would probably call. It would probably tell me to wait on hold, and I would get fed up and I hang up. That's probably what it would.
Too.
It sounds like one of those things that we do with like a group of friends in high school with like those payphones, just like to have fun with it, where we just like call Sting and we'd all just talk to Sting on the phone at lunchtime or something like that, and like prank call the hotline. That sounds like something we might have done back in.
That's definitely something you would have done.
Hey, Sting, what are you eating? My mom made me a sandwich today. There's cheese in it.
Yeah, something like that. You know, I feel like it's something I could have done, but you know, I've never talked to Sting before, so I could talk to Sting for 99 cents. It's something that I could say I did. I was on a pay-per-view talking to Sting for 99 cents.
And we're gonna get to Sting later on in the show because Sting was involved. Let's move on to the next match. Flying Brian, or Brian Pillman, as most of you know, God rest his soul, taking on Steven Regal, or who we know as William Regal, the same dude. A very, very jacked up Steven Regal. Oh my goodness. I mean, I know we see him like, you know, old and frivolous now as being the NXT general manager, but my goodness, the late 90s, that man was ripped. I don't think I've ever seen him that build of that physique. Not, I mean, I was like, dang. I mean, I know there was like stories of him with steroids and whatnot. I get that. But I was just impressed with the physique at Regal. I'm like, my goodness, take a bow. Well done, sir. You know, playing off the heel as he always did with the British look. You know, it's like, I'm from England. I'm better, more sophisticated than you. Thank goodness we don't have any of our Brit peeps on tonight with us today. Oh my goodness, they would agree with it. Thank goodness. I found the match boring. I was just bored. It was for the WCW television title, which is a name that you don't hear too often. The television title. It just felt like a very extremely technical match. Hold after hold after hold, one-sided. It went to a draw, a 15-minute time limit. It went to the draw, and then, you know, because by draws, by default, Regal retained. Dave, let's start with you on your thoughts on this match.
I was just disappointed to hear. I mean, first off, hearing the time limit stuff and not actually seeing how much time was left in the match. Like, if you're doing a time limit match, put the time on the screen. Like, it's 1994. It's not rocket science to do. Like, if you're gonna do a match like that, and yeah, it lacked pace. It was just hold after hold, as you mentioned. You know, like Regal did well to like play off like like begging, don't hurt me, like the stuff that we've come to know. You got to see some interesting things that he can do, like the European uppercut, which is one of my favorite strikes. Like, that's just such a great move. But yeah, that match was definitely underwhelming. Good it wasn't that wasn't the first match, because if that was the first match, boy, would the pay-per-view have gone off on the wrong foot. Yeah,
I think so as well. RJ?
Yeah, I kind of disagree. You guys hit it on the head. This one, it's kind of weird when you have this 15-minute time limit. So you'd think it should be like kind of like a sprint, right? Like, you have 15 minutes to finish this match. Like, I got to put some offense in, but then you're watching headlocks and like submissions and very technical wrestling. You're not really kind of, you know, putting it to your opponent. Like, you think 15-minute match, you know, go back thinking of the, you know, Goldberg versus Lesnar, you know, big sprint. You got to get this done in 5 minutes. Whereas opposed, I know this is like 1994 technical wrestling, but you think in a 15-minute match, you wouldn't be doing 3-minute headlocks and toe holds. So that's something where kind of I think maybe where the boredom came in a little bit for that. And also to Dave's point where, we didn't really know how much time was left. Like, even if the announcers did a little bit of a better job, be like, oh, 5 minutes has passed, or like there's 5 minutes left, like kind of let us know. It feels like they were doing submissions for like they put in 3 or 4 submission holds, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's 5 minutes left in this match, 4 minutes left in this match. So you just kind of didn't know, and it just kind of felt like it just ended
Yeah.
in a draw. Like, it just didn't feel like it was ever. There's a word I'm looking for. It never really felt like there was any urgency.
Yeah,
going into the match.
that was actually going to be my next point. Like, Brian Pillman did not at any point go, "Oh, I need to get this match done now or right away."
Yeah.
It was just that's the part that really surprised me about it.
You do have Michael Buffer, who was the ring announcer for all time matches, and of course we knew WCW loved Michael Buffer, and I mean he's the better of the buffers, I guess. But yeah, I mean you did hear him say 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes have gone by, 5 minutes. 14, 13. I don't know. It was hard to hear for sure. And then, you have Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan. You were going on the commentary. And then it'll just casually remind you. It was one to pay attention for sure. But I agree. I do think that some sort of clock just to be like, okay, here's where we are. You don't have to maybe show it on screen the entire run because maybe some people will find that a bit distracting. I think the only time I think you would properly allow that would be an Iron Man match, which technically 2 years later was WrestleMania 12's Iron Man match. The clock on the full screen on the entire time made sense. But yeah, some sort of reminder saying, okay, here's where we are now, 5 minutes in the match. Okay, here's where we are now, 8 minutes, and so on and so forth. But yeah, but to go off to RJ's point and David's, I was waiting for Brian to do something. I'm like, hey, Brian, like you guys said, he's gotta pick it up, get some offense in there, and unfortunately didn't. Cost him the TV title. And of course, once again, God rest his soul, because I know he did depart very young. He left this world very, very young, unfortunately. But we move on, and we move on to a match that, not that we weren't awake, but we certainly were more awake than what we already were. It is the Chicago Street Fight for the WCW Tag Team titles. The Nasty Boys taking on Cactus Jack, Mick Foley, and Max Payne. Oh my sweet Jesus. That was a, how long was that match? That match was
10 minutes maybe.
It was 8 minutes and 54 seconds. But in 8 minutes and 54 seconds, you had us wishing that we could call 911 for them. Oh my goodness gracious. That was just right off the bat. You have like kendo sticks in the air, and then you have like chair shots that are not folded. Unfolded chair shots. That sounds like it hurts. David just got a new chair. He is sitting in a brand new Lazy Boy chair. Imagine getting hit with that, or with my chair. That can't.
My chair would definitely hurt more. My thing weighs a ton.
I'm not. This wasn't a competition. I'm just telling you that our chairs would hurt unfolded. That's my point. I mean, you probably would. Who are we kidding? Your chair looks lovely. It looks very padded, but it also looks very painful. That's besides the point. Table flips on the ramps, a souvenir stand gone to pieces, Cactus Jack looking dead, as if we're not used to that with Mick Foley, aka the 1998 King of the Ring, and the Hell in a Cell there. But oh my goodness, Mick Foley just a dangerous, maybe not dangerous, crazy dude.
How about Mick Foley? How about Mick Foley giving a table a German suplex onto another guy? That was my favorite moment of the match. I'm like, what the hell did he do? Oh my god! Like what he did with that table was unbelievable.
David, let's start with you then on your thoughts elaborating on this match, because this was just in 8 minutes unreal. I was definitely one of the more fun times I had with the street fight. But oh my god, David, go first.
I mean, I kept talking about the ramp and how it was so nice to see the ramp, the old style ramp.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, oh, that ramp's gonna come into play somehow. And I was just counting the number of concussions in that match. I lost count.
Jeez.
The funny part was after the match, they're like, oh, there was 2 ambulances brought to the ramp. I'm like, no shit. I don't know if we're allowed to swear or not.
We are now. I took out the censors back in episode 10.
Okay. I'm like, no shit. Do you need an ambulance? I'm surprised they didn't call like one of those ambulance trucks, like the long ambulance buses, because every single competitor in that match pretty much was needing an ambulance. Like, not only the part where Mick Foley was pushed off the stage
Oh my
onto a
goodness.
concrete floor, that wasn't enough. How about a guy taking a plastic shovel, clearly, I don't think meaning to hit Mick Foley in the face,
He got him.
and got him flush. It's a plastic. I know it's a plastic shovel, not a metal. Thank goodness it was plastic.
Yeah.
But that plastic is meant to do some damage. It's meant to do some serious work.
I used a
traumatized
plastic. I used a plastic shovel. I shoveled snow for the first time in my 2-week break at David's house. David asked me to help him with his driveway, and I gladly accepted. I used a plastic shovel. I can only imagine that shovel to the face. That's gotta hurt. Yes, I am 27 and I shovel snow for the first time living in Canada. It happens.
It sounds like David got out of doing some shoveling the other day. That's the moral of the story to me.
I looked at my shovel in the garage and I just went, nope, nope, no, don't want to do that.
Jose, you still want to shovel snow for the first time ever?
I'll do it.
Free driveway for you to shovel.
I'll do it. I offered. I'm like, let me get his driveway, please. I told him, like, please let me shovel your driveway, and then he helped me out because it was too much for a rookie. But anyways, we're getting sidetracked. RJ, your thoughts on the match?
Yeah, to add on to that shovel thing, Cactus Jack's head is also like laying on the concrete, so he's getting this like concerto style like shovel to the head, where he's literally got his head on the concrete. So there's another concussion there. Yeah, this is a pretty crazy match, and it's really like the beginning showing you how wild Mick Foley seriously was, and how wild of matches these guys used to have back in the day. I happen to actually have seen this match before randomly, like a couple months ago. I had no idea that it was on this pay-per-view. I did not see this coming. I just remember I was scrolling through a Twitter thread of like the best death matches ever, and somebody recommended this match. Happened to watch it, and I was like, holy crap, this match is crazy. And then we flip on this pay-per-view, and all of a sudden, this match just happens to be on, and I'm like, holy shit, I've seen this match. This match is ridiculous. You guys do not want to miss this. And it's just carnage. They throw the guy through the souvenir stand. Obviously, the bump at the end where Cactus Jack literally gets 2-hand shoved off and smashes his head off the concrete is very difficult to watch. It's very difficult to kind of keep track of everything. It goes to split screen often, and they kind of pair off and just kind of beat the hell out of each other. But it's really it's kind of a fun, like, car crashy, kind of want to look away but can't really look away sort of match, which happens with Cactus Jack a lot, I would imagine.
Yeah, way too much.
Yeah, this is a really fun match. Like, probably one of the more fun matches on the entire card. It's very, very. I'd recommend to see it if you like watching crazy street fight style matches.
If you like concussions, hop on Spring
Literally,
Stampede
if you like
1994.
yes.
See, what I was gonna add on to was that, like, the split screen was interesting because I feel like the producers and the guys in the production truck were pissed because they had to keep the split screen on it for a long period of time, and they probably, if I just combined in the 8 minutes and the 9 minutes of the match, probably 4 or 5 was split screen because they just wandered off on their own. They kind of just, okay, we're gonna go here, you're gonna go there, right? And obviously, in hindsight, what most companies would have done, or just anybody would have done, is just flip back and forth. Okay, go to camera 2, go to camera 3, back to 2, 3, keep going and going, which probably would have got sick and would have got tired for our eyes because, again, we don't want to miss anything as well. So that made sense. The last thing I want to bring up about this match that you guys didn't bring up, which had me laughing, was the unnecessary table shot to the head, the half table shot to the head to Max Payne at the end of the match. I just found it so funny that after the match, they're celebrating.
You didn't take enough pain. Let's just give it unnecessary table.
I can't remember who it was running. I want to say it was Brian Knobs, but I don't know. I'm a sucker for weird comedy things, and I just find it hilarious. If you see in the distance that there's somebody running at you with an object, so from like he's coming bigger and bigger into the picture, that had me laughing. I'm like, here's a man running in with a chair, with the table above his head, sprinting down the ramp, boom, to hit the guy and to hit poor Max Payne on the head with it. I don't know. I just found that hilarious. I hope both. I mean, if Max Payne didn't have a concussion, that table shot was the concussion for Max Payne, who must have, quote unquote, been in pain.
Can we also remember when I think Mick Foley was supposed to get power drive through the table and the table
and it just collapsed.
and collapsing, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's so disastrous. I think I've only seen a table giveaway once with Triple H trying to do the pedigree on Chris Jericho and ultimately screwing up his knee in the process. That was horrifying because it's a smaller table, so it's already pushed to its limit. And then it collapses and like Foley just drops down onto the ramp. Like I'm just like, what just like, and it kind of just happened, and they didn't really point to the fact that it happened. Like I saw it, and I'm just like, what the hell? So yeah, this match has had so much of that.
It's funny when they were on the ramp before we wrap this point up. While they're on the ramp, the only spot that I kept thinking of was that ECW spot with Taz and I think Bam Bam. Was it Bam Bam? When they like, I think it was Taz that threw Bam back onto a ramp like that, and the ramp just crushed. They went right through the ramp, like through the ground. That's what I thought was gonna happen for some odd reason at one point. I don't know. I don't know my timelines very well. I don't know if that ECW spot happened after this, or probably did. But that was just the only thing that came to my mind. But yes, that was, I mean, so far 3 matches in, I knew like this was already my favorite match of the night because it was how silly and unnecessary it is. But of course, we have to give warning. Don't try that at home. And if you do, well, I can't stop you. So
if you do,
just be careful, okay? That's all we ask. Just
don't do it. Just don't.
Maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, like, look, David has a pool. We were gonna test wrestling moves on a pool, but that's fine.
I mean, I've done that growing up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think we've all done it. Yeah. I mean, definitely had some trampoline and pool wrestling as a kid.
My backyard wrestling experience was just my friend's backyard on a tarp. No trampoline, no pool, just straight out the ground, the dirt. That hurt. And
that doesn't seem.
And I did trip off a tree stump trying to do a frog splash, and I was knocked out for a couple seconds. Let's move on, shall we? We go on to the WCW United States Championship. That's a title we're all familiar with. The Great Muta, which this one caught me off guard. I'm like, holy crap, it's the Great Muta. I was fortunate enough to see the Great Muta when I was in New York for WrestleMania weekend 2 years ago, and in the Honor Rumble at the G1, the New Japan ROH Supercard, the Great Muta came out at number 30, and he got a huge ovation. He's a living legend in Japan. He's like one of the best of all time in Japan, taking on one of our best of all time, Stunning Steve Austin, or as we know him as Stone Cold Steve Austin, the beer drinking son of a gun. I just realized you're wearing your Toronto 316 shirt. Well done, David.
Prepared.
I mean, like, if you were to tell me that somebody as iconic as the Great Muta took on a very young rookie in Stone Cold Steve Austin or Stunning Steve Austin, I would have laughed. This was 2 years before Steve Austin debuted. Obviously debuted to WWE. It just makes me laugh because you always see Steve as, like, again, this is where our age shows. We're so used to seeing Steve as a world champion, right? We didn't grow up with his early rookie years. Again, hence 1994, right? Obviously, no, we're all literally babies and or not born. And so, wait a minute. What day was this? When did this happen? May what? Sorry, April 17th. No, David was not born yet. So it's like it was just great to see Steve Austin with hair. We were just like, like fangirling on that, like, oh my goodness, it's Stone Cold with hair, with blonde hair. I hated the finish. The finish made me mad. It was not
what the hell that was. I'm like,
I'm just very confused. And if you've seen this pay-per-view and if you've seen the match, let us know why you thought this was a disqualification. But what happened was Steve Austin threw his Muta threw out Austin's manager, Colonel Robert Parker, out of the ring, like over the top rope. Very traditional. Okay, get the manager out of the way. That's just what you want to do. If a heel manager is coming in and distracting your match, Muta then throws Austin out over the top, and referee Nick Patrick says, okay, forget it. All right, that's a disqualification. Why?
So the only way I can think is he didn't throw him, like he didn't toss him over, he actually like body drops him over. Like it was like a lot more dangerous, I think, in that regard than just throwing the guy over. Because the guy, at least when you throw the guy over, he has a chance to recover in a way to make sure he doesn't hurt himself. I don't know. That was only my only guess.
I'm thinking that it was just a stipulation that you can't throw the guy over the top rope. That's literally the only thing I can think of. I know he got disqualified for throwing him over the top rope. I just didn't know that was actually a stipulation. Was that a stipulation of all the matches back in the day, or was that a stipulation of just that one match? I don't know. I literally tried Googling it after. I found out that it is because he got thrown over the top rope. But I tried to figure out if that was like an actual stipulation back then, or if it was just a stipulation for that match. I don't know. Really stupid. Really stupid.
It's funny. I'm looking too.
Very anticlimactic.
I mean, I'm looking at Wikipedia, which, by the way, children, Wikipedia is a great starting point. It's not your source for your essays moving forward. Word of advice. I've been there.
I'm a Wikipedia enthusiast. Use it for
yes. But again, like for the young viewers watching, or even if you're in college or university, Wikipedia is your starting point. It's not your end point. But it's saying here that like he just, again, like even like whoever was writing this was confused too, just thrown over the top rope and get disqualified. It makes no sense. It was frustrating. I mean, the match was okay. You know, I mean, it's again like it's weird that you have like one of the Japanese best of all time taking on a rookie Stone Cold Steve Austin, or Stunning Steve. I have to remember he is Stunning Steve here. But the ending just made no sense. I mean, now of course, given that Muto is a Japanese star, I presume that then maybe they didn't want him to lose cleanly, which is why they wanted to try to find a reason to disqualification. But again, it's like, can you just at least hit him with a chair or something to make this make sense? David?
I was just looking on Reddit, another great place to look for information.
Yes, Reddit, a classic, of course.
So there was a question: why was throwing your opponent over the top rope an automatic DQ back in the day? So it is an automatic. It wasn't for that match. Austin actually had that happen to him when he threw Ricky the Dragon Steamboat over the top rope. He had the same thing, and apparently it's because the floors, like the outside of the ring, was concrete. It was to avoid having wrestlers thrown over the top rope and onto the concrete
as like a weapon.
Yeah,
as a weapon.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was obviously normal back in the day. Like, this did not throw anybody off. It threw us off because we're 27 years old and haven't seen this fucking pay-per-view before. Sorry. So obviously we are the only ones that are thrown off by this stipulation, and the people in the stadium at the Rosemont
Horizon. Yes, there you go. Well done.
Were like, oh yeah, that's a DQ. Of course, he threw him over the top rope onto the
probably Billy in the 6th row. Steve, you fool! How could you do that?
That's just Stunning Steve.
Steve.
Oh, Stunning Steve. Yeah, Brad Skull.
Nick,
so I hope that.
Nick, the guy who asked us to review, I hope you're having fun with watching 3 late 20 guys
just shaking his head like, yeah.
He's probably thinking we're weird, but that's okay. But yeah, like goddamn millennials. But that's weird. But yeah, again, probably little Billy in the 6th row. Oh, you fool! Yeah, now you're done. Now you've done it. But yeah,
we learned something on the pod though.
Yeah, we did
learn something today.
We are an educational podcast as well.
The more you know, honestly.
Yeah, I can't put that up for potential copyright reasons. I know where you're going with. Let's move on. Let's move on to the international world title. This threw me off as well. Again, welcome to 1994. It was champion Rick Rude, who we know in WWF as Rick Rude, taking on Sting. Yep. Not the Scorpion Sting that we're all used to and adore, but the what is this? Would you call him surfing Sting? I mean, this again. I don't know how to
bodybuilding Sting. I would
say. Yeah, thank you. Bodybuilding Sting.
Ultimate Warrior Sting.
Yeah.
Ultimate Warrior Sting. Okay. All right, let's go with Ultimate Warrior Sting.
He's got the same sort of gimmick. Like, I can't get that out of my head. He's got the same face paint, really. He's got the I'm a huge, strong dude. I go to the ring wearing face paint, beat up my opponent really quick.
I was right. It was called. Sorry, it was called a surfer gimmick. I
Was
knew
it
it was on the right
surfer?
path. I knew it was on the right path.
Wow.
Interesting.
I knew it was on the right path.
Bodybuilder surfer is pretty close.
Is it?
Let me have this.
I was gonna let that one go, but then I thought about it for a second. I'm like, is it really that close? Like they
Hey,
both
you
don't
need-
wear
you
they
need-
don't
you
wear
need that
shirts.
core.
Like they both don't wear shirts, but that's kind of where the comparisons, we draw the line.
See, Jesus. Now, and of course, the one thing that throws off is because the international world title is the big goal that we all know and love. And of course, again, we thought that was already the WCW title, but turns out they had their own WCW Heavyweight Championship, which we're going to get to later on. But yeah, this was originally big gold, which was eventually merged with the WCW title within that following year. As a heads up. But yes, Rick Rude entered as champion. Things got hectic because Harley Race came in, who said that Vader was next in line for a title. And then Harley Race just starts attacking people, or he hit Rick Rude with a chair, which of course makes us ask, where's the disqualification at that rate? Because, if we had somebody get thrown over the top rope and be disqualified, what happened here? Sting became your new international world champion, and which was hilarious because even though as the referee was knocked down, you can see that the ref was clearly had his head up, looking towards what was happening. He sees Rick Rude getting hit with a chair, doesn't call the DQ. Sting takes advantage, takes a pin, 1, 2, 3. I thought that was funny. But RJ, let's start with you with your thoughts on the match.
Yeah, the match was. I'm not gonna lie. It was over. It was a little forgettable for me. I'm not gonna lie until the end, the chair shot at the end. I like both these guys. But honestly, this match kind of just like in the middle of the show. I wasn't super as invested into this one. I really was surprised about the title though that you already brought up. How long was this title from this point until it became the actual WCW championship?
How long after? Because I think
it was established in September '93, and then it was retired as the International World Heavyweight Championship was June 23rd, '94. It was just 2 months later that the title was retired. Sting won it at Spring Stampede, and then May 1st, Rick Rude won it back. But there was a disqualification issue. Title was vacated. Sting won it again at Slamboree '94, and then Clash of Champions '94, which Ric Flair was champion. He won that, and then he unified the WCW Heavyweight Championship again.
Okay.
Just reading off the stats that I have here on my screen. I know that sounded a bit wonky there, but yes, it wasn't. It was literally 2 months later.
And we did decide that this is recognized as a championship reign, like a world championship reign.
Yes,
this is recognized as one. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Where it came from, I have no idea. It was a defunct professional that was contesting WCW. It was on. I don't know.
There's something about defending it in Japan because it was like the international championship or something like that. Anyway, if I was watching this live and we had some shows coming up, I think we got a rematch coming up here, fellas. We got Sting coming up against Rick Rude. Something's happening again. Rick Rude got screwed. We're gonna have a rematch coming up. Maybe a turn on Harley Race. I don't know what actually happened, but if I was watching this live on Saturday and this was the last pay-per-view, I would think that there's a rematch coming up. That's my review of this match. But overall, I think the more exciting thing to me was the brawl in the locker room afterwards, where I think it was Rick Rude was arguing with was it with Harley Race?
I believe so. I believe it was.
There was just a full-on brawl in the back with Vader. Yeah, so.
And Stunning Steve was trying to hold Rick Rude back, I think.
Yeah, Stunning Steve was holding Rick Rude back, and there was a random dude in a towel.
One of the Nasty Boys in a towel, and like both Nasty Boys just.
Oh yeah, in the towel.
Just both Nasty Boys acting natural, as if like they didn't put Cactus Jack and Max Payne in the ringer. They're just like, oh, hey, what's up, and just having to hold it back.
I was just hoping that towel was not going to drop. God knows what was underneath that towel.
On that note, David, your thoughts on the match itself?
Yeah, it was nice to see Sting, that version of Sting. I hadn't really seen it before. It's kind of new to me. But at the same time, it didn't get exciting until the end, which it's kind of, you kind of expect in a wrestling match. But I just felt it didn't have anything really until the end. And I mean, good ending in my opinion. It created a little more. It needed some confrontation in some way, just something that would make it worth continuing. Because I don't know if you could have really continued if it was just a normal ending like that. That would have been an underwhelming finish if it was just a normal pin for someone.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and there obviously, like I said, there was a rematch, I believe, at the next pay-per-view after. So RJ was right on that point, assuming he was Little Billy in 1994 in the 6th row. But we're gonna move on from that because again, yeah.
Sorry, before you move on,
yeah, go.
When does Sting move into that Scorpion gimmick? Because I actually did really like this look for Sting.
I actually have a little action figure of that Sting. It's in a storage locker somewhere, but I do have like a pink and black Sting, pink and black black and pink faced Sting face paint. Sting turned into the Scorpion in, was he 96, 97? Yeah, after the NWO formed in 96 is when Sting decided to do the 180 with his character.
That makes
which made sense.
That makes sense.
And obviously that is the thing that we know and love today. So
for sure.
It worked out. It worked out for him. Let's move on to the next match. Oh my goodness. This also was very tough to watch in terms of brutality. The Bunkhouse Match.
Oh, yeah.
The Bunkhouse Match, which included Dustin Rhodes, who we know as Goldust. Remember that guy in WWE? Fun guy, really entertaining. Taking on Bunkhouse Buck. We were we were trying to figure out, okay, what makes this a bunkhouse match? Why is it called a bunkhouse match? And I believe it was RJ who looked it up while we were watching, saying that it was just straps only.
I think that was Dave who found that.
I'm sorry.
I was just guessing that it had to be like
Yeah.
cowboy related items, and then I think Dave confirmed it had to be leather stuff, so the boot counted and the straps counted.
Yeah, pretty much the way I saw it was anything that was considered redneck was pretty much what was being allowed. Because we were wondering why. Yeah, I think it was the belts. There was the boot. What else was there? I'm trying to remember.
Well, he cheated to win by using brass knuckle,
which is weird enough.
He didn't even use the legal weapons to win the match, so he cheated even further to win his own match.
I think there was a point where the ref was trying to stop Dustin from doing something which was legal, but the ref was trying to make it seem like it wasn't legal. There was a little confusion near the end, and then obviously Buck takes out the brass knucks and boom. I mean, you knew that was something like that was coming.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the match was wild. I mean, it even started off wild with Dustin running down the ramp and then jumping over the top rope to get the bunk and starting the match. That was ridiculous. Oh, sorry, Buck. That was ridiculous on his own. Even at one point they called, I think it was, who was it? Bunkhouse Bunk that called him the punter for the Dallas Cowboys, which made me laugh.
Oh yeah.
I know, and Dave's a Cowboys fan, so I know he appreciated that. But I mean, again, there was only one word to describe this match at the end of the day. It was just bloody. Absolutely. There was even blood on the referee's shirt. You're like, woo! Oh my goodness. But yeah, the Nux, and I believe again, this was again Colonel Robert Parker, which everybody was calling him like the KFC Colonel. KFC buckets were in the stands, which was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, to this match, bloody, gruesome. Somehow, despite all that, a cheating finish, which makes no sense in a match with a bunch of weapons. But
he's a heel.
He's the heel, yeah. I mean, let me hide another weapon, despite I just whipped him with a belt, which, by the way, looked very painful. Strapping, getting hit with a belt. Oh, that was gnarly. Yeah. Anything else to add on to this match, fellas?
I just thought it was very intriguing and interesting, and I was in awe seeing Goldust wrestle in a Texas Longhorn sweater and jeans.
Yeah.
That was just weird. And then the other guy couldn't get it out of my head that he looked like 1990s WCW Dean Ambrose.
I was about to say, didn't we kind of figure? I mean, the overalls were kind of throwing it off a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but I'm like, I can see 90s Dean Ambrose up against Dustin Rhodes in a Texas Longhorns sweater. But it was actually a really cool match. It was very bloody, but both the like street fight style matches on this card were very car crashy.
I think very entertaining is also the right word to use. For sure. Here. Very, very entertaining. Let's go to the pendulum match. The second last match. Oh, I can't. There are times when I don't speak English. This is one of those times, ladies and gentlemen. It was a grudge match. Boss Man, who we knew as just the big boss man, or sorry, he was known as the boss.
He was the boss. Yeah,
he was the
boss.
boss. He was known as the boss in WCW. Same attire. The police corrections, the correctional officer uniform, the strap, the nightstick, just a different color. The boss, again, who we knew as Big Boss Man, God rest his soul, taking on Vader, also God rest his soul. This was apparently the last time we're gonna face off, as what a grudge match entails of. Not much to it, because it was just before the main event. But I'm very happy that this was on the card, because I'm happy that we got to see. I'm happy that we were reminded of how incredible and just deadly Vader was for a man of his size, for a man of his waist and everything, weight and everything. He was so agile, so strong, so dominant. The moonsault off the top rope was just chef's kiss, beautiful, unbelievable. I mean, the man could do it all. He was a world champ a few times in WCW. Unfortunately, never got to that. Never even won I don't even think he won a championship in WWE when he was with the WWF in the late 90s. It's unfortunate because the man was just so talented. So for again, his size is such a big factor when I say that, because not many men his size can do what he did in the ring. Unbelievable work. RJ, let's start with you on this.
Yeah, so I mean, this match wasn't very long or anything like that, but for what it was, I actually kind of enjoyed it. It was hard hitting, like the welts on these dudes. Like I think it was Vader who had a welt on his eye at the end of the match. I think his eye was half closed, basically. Like these guys are hard hitting dudes. Obviously, the moonsault at the end by Vader was awesome, and most of the time I saw Vader, as a kid, he was in the WWF and he wasn't doing that anymore. He was doing the Vader bomb. So it's actually really cool to see young Vader pull off that big moonsault on the top rope. And he was agile, he was athletic, he was a big hitter. And honestly, the Big Boss Man can give a lick himself. So, I mean, this is a nice big man match that really wasn't so bad for a match that was 5 to 10 minutes at max right before the main event.
David?
Yeah, no, I mean, Vader, I mean, I always remember him from his feuds with guys like Mick Foley. I think there was times with The Undertaker as well. I was always in awe with what he could do in the ring. I mean, he was very versatile. He wasn't, the fact he would go up on the top rope, which is kind of unheard of. Like, not just on, the middle rope, top rope and doing stuff. You don't see big men doing stuff like that.
No.
And in this match, I think it was a good mix of, two big guys that were just really physical. Like this match just had a lot of physicality, which you don't usually, and it was kind of good. It was a good back and forth. It wasn't one guy totally. I mean, Bossman, I felt like was definitely not he wasn't you didn't think Bossman was going to win that one at times, and I just also liked the way that it ended. With Bossman just losing it, afterwards. That was good too, because it just I like those things where it's like I actually kind of like when after a match guys kind of lose it and just get petty and do something like that. And I don't know what happened with Bossman after that, because I think they said he was gonna look to get suspended. Don't really know how it played out after that, but I did like how the ending happened.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That's a great point. And I mean, when it comes to pettiness, I mean, one of the best examples that I've seen is from David me and his sister and another friend of ours took Madden. We're playing Madden and we're destroying the Dallas Cowboys.
I wasn't even there for that.
He wasn't even there, and he got so petty out of it. It was beautiful. But yes, I'm
getting I'm getting a bunch of IG mentions of Jose playing on absolute rookie mode. Like a 10-year-old could do what Jose was doing, and he's just flaunting that he's beating the Cowboys as the Patriots, and I'm like, really? So, I digress, though.
Point is, I just wanted to bring that up. Point is, yes. I mean, that is a great point to close off, and I think that I know we're praising Vader a lot, but I know Bossman as well was also another underrated talent. Even when he came back into the WWF just a few years after that, when he returned, he was still good. I think he was a trainer at one point. I can't remember. He passed away in 2004. Very, very young as well. But yeah, again, just another good talent though. Just like a nice fun mid card superstar wrestler in the Boss Man. And of course, I mean, it's unfortunate, one of the more scarier moments that I've seen with the Boss Man is from WrestleMania 15 and The Undertaker. But this was a good to see him, being presented, I guess, properly well. And that's I hate that it's a theme with WWF, but that the stereotypers are the most of the times they don't present who they really can be. But again, the Boss Man in this match, and like David said with that ending, presented it really well. So I liked it a lot. Let's move on to the main event of the evening, the WCW World Title, not the International World Title, the World Title. Ricky Steamboat, the Dragon, and if I don't know why I didn't call him Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, that may be a copyright issue. I don't know. Taking on the Nature Boy, a young 45-year-old Nature Boy. Who was
young 45,
a young 45 who was we were counting, I think that was his mid 10s part of the 60, like in 10 11, I could be wrong, but he wasn't at 16 yet, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, and if somebody wants to fact check me, that would be amazing.
I don't think he was.
I don't think he was at 16 yet at this point. 32-minute match. This definitely was the highlight of for me, the highlight of the pay-per-view. I thought it was a great match. It definitely kept you in the whole time. These two are incredible. Ricky Steamboat in his prime was spectacular. I mean, I know everybody raves about his WrestleMania 3 match with Macho Man for the Intercontinental title, rightfully so, because that was an incredible match, one for the ages. But it was nice to see Ricky Steamboat in this world title. And throughout the match, again, we're not knowing the results. We were kind of asking ourselves, has Ricky the Steamboat ever won a world title? And we were wondering, and we're like, I don't think so. But then as the match progressed, we're like, wait, can this be Ricky? And I was pulling for Ricky. I'm like, even I knew this happened 26 years ago. I'm like, come on, Ricky, like, do it. And like, unfortunately, I hated the ending. My God, a double pin, and I believe it was who? Ric Flair on top of Steamboat.
I think it was like a backslidey bridge style pin, and I think Flair was on top of Steamboat.
Yeah, because Steamboat was underneath. And remember the whole time in the match, Jose, you were complaining about the ref being so close on every pin. and the one time you want the ref to be close so he could see the double count, and he was.
I mean, let me elaborate on that. I mean, if there's one thing I love to watch, like to see how they perform, are the refs. Because they're asked to like go out, like go like really sell it, like they'll be like, hey, wash the hair, hey, watch your closed fist, do open fist, wash the fist. Like they just get so into it. It's so funny. Like they like Mike Chioda, I think, is one of the best people at that. Just that really milks in like the smallest stuff. Nick Patrick is another one that I love, and it's so funny because like when he gets into a pin, he takes about 3 seconds, ironically, to set himself up in a side plank to carefully eye, and then move with his left hand. 1, 2, and I'm like, oh my God, Nick, just drop and count, just drop and count. And like Ricky Steamboat could have won the match 6 times if he didn't come to circling around 180 and then getting to your side plank. But yeah, it's unfortunate that the Flair won the way that he did. I was really rooting for Steamboat. In terms of world title, he's only won one from what I've seen, which is the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. So, which of course was somewhat called the WCW, which eventually converted to WCW, if I'm not mistaken. Again, my mid 90s wrestling history is not the strongest, but yes, I think Ricky Steamboat is the guy who should have won over. I guess in this case, had another world title reign or had a reign in into WWE. It's unfortunate. I think Ricky Steamboat was definitely one of the more underrated talents of all time. Because again, I felt like you know that he could have been more than what we just saw at WrestleMania 3, which again in other promotions he technically was. David, your thoughts on the match?
So I will just give you some clarification on the numbers of title reigns that Flair had. He was on title reign number 13 at the time.
There we go.
He won it from Vader in December 93. And then, so he held that one on until, I think it was the summer of 94. And then he won it again from Randy Savage. That was number 12.
There we go.
Like something like that. And
number 14 you mean? Number 14 you mean? Because you just said this was 13. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I kind of felt that it was weird. Like Flair's styles never changed from like when you first watch him to even like later in his career. And I always say, like, that's kind of how Flair is able to wrestle late into his 50s. And I mean, Steamboat, I always liked watching wrestle. I think he's a guy that, severely underrated, definitely deserved more of a push at times, and unfortunately just never got it. And I just liked how there was times where he was toying with Flair, like getting the figure 4 on him was pretty cool.
That's what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
I think Flair tried to throw him out of the ring, which, I mean, wouldn't that have been a DQ of something?
Yeah.
But then Ricky was holding onto the rope and powered himself over, which I'm just like, damn, I don't even really think many guys were doing that at that point. Like, he was just a great physical specimen, just to see him watch in the ring.
He looked better in. I could be wrong because I know 1987 is very different from 1994, but he looked in better shape in '94 than when he did at WrestleMania 3. I could be wrong. RJ, do you think that? No, is it just me?
Off the top of my head, I wouldn't be able to tell you that, to be honest.
Damn it! All right, maybe it's just me then. Damn. I'll go on. Continue.
Well, and just the other thing I was just going to mention was there was a part in the match where he was going to attempt a cross body or just a move off the top rope, and Flair was just so far away. I'm just like, for a fact that's just not going to work.
Yeah.
I'm just like, things like that made the match a little weird, but I like the ending. I know you hated the ending, but I mean, if the storyline was about Steamboat not being able to win a world title, because I don't know what the storyline was like for him back then, what a way for him to not win a title is for a double pin. It just screamed like I know it's not the finish many would have liked, and I'm pretty sure if many wanted people to like want Steamboat to win a title, you would hate that finish. But I kind of liked it. I thought it was pretty cool.
The crowd was very pro Steamboat that night. From what it sounded like, they were very into Ricky. RJ, close us out.
Yeah, first of all, I'm a little distracted because it feels like I have a ghost in my house right now. If you can see the lights flickering on and off.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because there's a window right here, and the sun is like going behind the clouds or something like that. So it keeps like peeking in and out, and it's like I have a ghost in my but on the match, this match is totally pretty solid it's like goes for what 30-ish minutes or so, a little longer. It's not the best match between Flair and Steamboat, obviously, because they have that 5-star match, obviously, as a part of the WWF or NWA or something. But it's still a really good match between two guys that have really good chemistry. So overall, you guys pretty much hit most of the nails on the head. It's a really good match. Very unfortunate finish because you kind of start pulling for Steamboat, even though you sort of know at the back of your head he's obviously not going to win because he's not going to be the champion. At least that's what I thought. And then, like as Jose obviously said, and then the double pin happens, and I'm like, I kind of vaguely remember this finish. It is a double pin, and it sucks. But that's Flair. Flair retains the title in the heelish, cheap, lucky way, and that was the way Flair rolled. And then, unfortunately, Steamboat never really gets a chance to win a world title, even though he's one of the greatest technical wrestlers ever. But it's a good match and overall good pay-per-view. But one thing before we wrap everything up and stuff, you really noticed throughout this pay-per-view, and I know I mentioned this during the actual event. Everybody's got the same "I'm handsome" gimmick. You got Flair, you got Stunning Steve, you got Ravishing Rick, and then you got Johnny B. Bad, the sexy cowboy.
I don't know what to tell you, RJ. They're handsome men. I don't know what else to say.
Apparently,
I mean, but that was
like, yeah, that's me. I'm not. That's my gimmick.
I see. Out of those that you mentioned, it's weird to see Austin with that gimmick, just because of what he ended up becoming just a few years later. From that point,
Stunning Steve. The Texas Rattlesnake.
Kind of glad it changed, but
yeah, he would have never became what he was if he started this game. If we got to be completely honest. But I know we're well past this match, but something we didn't quite bring up back then is Jose. You mentioned during the actual show, like how different of a wrestler he was. Like you're seeing technical wrestling, you're seeing submissions, you're seeing groundwork. Whereas Stone Cold's a brawler. He's hitting you with the Luthez press and he's punching your lights out. Where he's doing like suplexes and like toe holds and stuff.
You saw a little bit of that, but not to the degree.
Not as much.
No, sure. Not. It's funny because like Archer said, like I brought it up. The submissions and whatnot. It's just funny because he had those holds, But then 3 years later, hey, you have a submission match with Bret Hart at WrestleMania 13. But wait a minute, Austin's not a submissive technical guy. It's just a excuse me. That was just excuse me. That was just his gimmick, and it was just like, wow, how things change for Austin. The one last thing I did want to bring up was I just found when we were looking up Flair's age, because we knew that he was like we knew that he wasn't too young, but we also knew he wasn't too old. So when we heard 45, I'm looking at 1994, and I'm like, you're telling me that he entered the 2005 Royal Rumble at 55, 56? Holy crap! Like, good God Almighty, gentlemen. Out of 5, what would you rate this pay-per-view, David?
I mean, looking back now, I think initially after the pay-per-view, I said a 3.25. I'll give it a 3. I'll give it a 3.75. It's decent, but there were a couple matches where I felt underwhelmed. Luckily, there was a good main event. Luckily, there was some of those no DQ matches, because otherwise it would have been a little disjointed. So I'll give it a 3.75.
RJ?
I thought it was overall pretty fun event. It's a little long. It is a little long, which is something for me. It's almost exactly 3 hours, which I guess is normal pay-per-view length pretty much these days. But there's a couple forgettable matches, but I think the no DQs really spice it up. I like the opener, but I think that's because I was really hyped up to watch the event, and I was really just kind of like enthusiastic for Johnny to be back. And the main event, did its job. So I'm going to stick around that 3.5, 3.75 like Dave as well.
I'm gonna go with 3.75 as well. I was thinking about a 4. And I honestly felt like if the main event had a better ending, I may have pushed it to 4.
Yeah, if Steamboat goes over, I think I push it up a little.
Yeah, if Steamboat goes over, but I like 3.75 because I think, for the most part, I think it was a fair balance of matches that can get you going, matches that were like holy crap, but then the breathers, and something. I think those breathers were like a little too weak. I thought the flow was fine, but yeah, I think it could have been. Some matches here and there could have been performed better. And of course, I think the other reason why I'm giving it a 3.75, maybe around like RJ's range, just be like, I know stuff like the Muda Stunning Steve match just made no sense to us whatsoever. Now that we have cleared that, so I'm going to leave it at 3.75. But yeah, I thought it was great overall. And once again, thank you, Nick, for randomly messaging me on the Facebook page and be like, hey, can you review something? We had a lot of fun doing this. So, of course, we want to see if we can do this again. I don't know if it'll be maybe once a month, because I know we got some other stuff planned for the rest of the month, because, we are in WrestleMania season and whatnot. So this was a nice little break from it. Any other suggestions? And I'm going to bring this up again in the closing. Any other suggestions? Tweet at Under the Middle Rope. Tweet at me at the Water93. Message us on Facebook. All that jazz. And we all have the network, so we can all just find something and flip through it, because that's what the great library is about. $9.99. Actually, I lied. It's not even going to be a $9.99 in the States anymore. So $14.49 Canadian. Anyways, gentlemen, thank you as always. And let's get to the closing. You made it to the end of the episode. You made it to the end. Nick, thank you once again for that. I can't emphasize enough. We had a lot of fun watching a pay-per-view. We had a lot of fun digging into territory that we've never explored, because that's just our generation. This is the generation that we grew up in. So thank you, Nick, for that suggestion. That really goes a long way. And of course, once again, as I said at the end of the discussion, I open the floor up to you guys. If there's any other pay-per-view that you want us to review, tweet at us, Facebook us like Nick did. Any pay-per-view for the network, because we do have it. We all have it. And let us know what you want to see. Anything ECW, WCW, maybe a documentary, whatever it is. Let us know, and hopefully we can get you. Hopefully we can watch that, and then we can try to do this once a month. I'm not sure, but the floor is open. Floor is open. Of course, you can always chat with us, interact with us, message us anytime, which is me controlling all the social media, of course. So obviously, I will respond if you want to say, hey. Next week, of course, we're going to be back. We're now going to get back into the regular rhythm. And of course, I am very excited to announce that in 2 weeks' time, it is actually a small build-up. In 2 weeks' time, we do have our birthday episode. So in 2 weeks, hopefully, we do have one more episode next week, but 2 weeks. Be prepared for our year anniversary birthday episode, so I cannot wait for that. But for now, all I can say is just that. Thank you so much for watching. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, available wherever you get your podcasts, and of course subscribe to us here on YouTube. I'm Jose Tabuada, and we will see you guys next week. Have a great one. Bye.